Okay, so I was debating on doing a review on the custom keyboard I built, and I just got like some blank keycaps in, and so I still want to give it more time, but I mean that has been pretty nice. But I figured I can, like, after a year plus of like living with configurable keyboards, it's like, okay, what are some of the like drawbacks maybe that there are, and some of the other things with it, and like my experience with it overall. So like the first one that I got was the Ergo Docs Easy. And over time, I for quite a while I basically sat with the same configuration for the most part. There were some things that I have like removed more recently and like changed up and tweaked for testing purposes, and which is interesting. So for a lot of the things that I found, like when at first using the Ergo docs, I never ran into any like limits or anything or had any issues that way. So I've had all these layers and whatnot. So we'll just kind of go up to there because there's quite a few after there that are, these four were recently added for reasons later on I haven't been too good at, but um I had a workman layer, but I got rid of it because after doing a little bit more digging, it's like, maybe not. I still have to like look at the Colmac one and I guess learn it, but it's kind of sat there. But for the most part, I've used Dvorak and whatnot. I have added a few more key shortcuts here and there that I've used. I haven't quite shifted things around. I think I might do that here down the road, since we'll look at the other stuff as to why. But more recently, I basically took out the symbols layer that they had, because it's like, okay, most of the symbols that I use are basically accessible, so I'm not quite worried about it. So I consolidated it down into like with the media layer. So you've got the number pad here from the symbols layer, and then like all the configuration keys down here. And that's basically where I get, when I'm not too good at turning off my computer, but yeah, that's kind of where, I'll set the keyboard up and whatnot if I don't feel like staring at standard colors. I do have colors configured for it, but yeah. And I have added other key like holds, taps, and whatnot here and there into it. And as I've looked at other channels, so can I? No. Okay. So as I've kind of looked at other channels and what they've done and seen like other then and how they've kind of messed with their keyboards, it's kind of inspired me to look at the other options that I have with my Ergo docs and everything else, and even looking at different other keyboards to try out and possibly pick up that are actually pretty budget friendly, which is really cool for someone like me that is very budget, So basically the Ergo docs, there's still some things I could probably shave out that I don't really use, or maybe things I can add into like my config files so that I can take advantage of those things. But right now I think I've basically mostly settled. And kind of one of the things too is I was experimenting with a 36 key layers. And so the interesting thing that I ran into, and I've never heard anyone talk about it, is I hit the firmware limit once I started adding these layers to it. So I had to remove a couple layers and consolidate down, which is why I slimmed some things off. But as I've messed with my custom keyboard that I put together, the 75 key keyboard, it has like made me realize that like there are firmware limits, and I didn't realize what the firmware limit for the ErgoDox was. I thought it was like larger than it was, but yeah. Because I was trying to add hold modifier keys onto the home row here, and that didn't work out too well because I hit the firmware limit and it errored out on me when it tried to compile. So that was pretty interesting. But yeah, these are basically experiments similar to like what Ben Valek was doing with his 36 key keyboard setup, is having different functions and whatnot on different rows and all. For some reason, I have the mouse keys here. I haven't really used mouse keys at all, but maybe I should work that into my workflow a bit more or what all, depending. But I was looking at it, and I kind of like the home row modifier keys, which I'll probably still try out. And like I've got the double tap hold keys here that go to different layers, like the symbol layer, and then this one over here goes to the function layer over here. Hey, stop that. And then I've got, so the enter key, if I hold it, it goes to the Vim layer, which is literally just HJKL overlaid with E and B on it, so that I can navigate like through words and by lines and whatnot. I could probably add other movement keys in if I felt like it, but I mean, I should be able to get used to using Dvorak for that, honestly. The HJKL is just more convenient because it's right there on the home row, and just reaching over to enter and holding it makes it a little bit easier. I haven't been using this 36 key layer like I should probably be for testing it, but that's what it is. For any other like keyboards, I was looking at the QMK configurator, and it looked like something I would try at first. I'd messed around with it a little bit from like, if I go to, is it down here? Because QMK has a lot of cool settings, but the configurator doesn't exactly have like all those like deep down settings for you to mess with per se, or defaults and all. And so you've got to, in essence, do that manually in the firmware when you download the source. And so when I started using the XD75, I had basically started from source code. And there are some things that I've basically pulled out in my more recent stuff because I hit firmware limits, so that I could add other things in and basically kind of slim it down for the purpose of looking and testing. So like some of these layers I've basically commented out, and I haven't really used and messed with. But so we've got the function layer, of course, and I put that at the end because it has to be at the end in order to use some of the functionality, because it overlays over the other layers. Otherwise, you're basically stuck with a keyboard that doesn't quite function the way you would expect it to. So we've got our Dvorak layout, or QWERTY is the base layer, and then Dvorak, and then our gaming layer on top of that, because I commented out the Deseret one. And so the reason why I was looking at moving shift down is because in this layer, the gaming layer, I have shift right next to that A, and I found that it's really actually quite nice for a lot of games to actually hit that without really having to move the pinky at all. So I can sit there, have my pinky there, and it's fine. And then control's right below it, so I can hit control for crouch and whatnot if I really want to. And then tab, which is usually for like looking at scoreboards and whatnot, is basically right there. So having this set up, and I think, yeah, and I moved the, oh, did I move the arrow keys back? Yes, I did. So it's not reflected up here, but I did move the arrow keys back to their standard position and move the enter key over because I have F5 and F9 in the middle, which for a lot of games is quick save, quick load. And then I've got the square brackets in games like Postal 2 that and Postal 4 that navigate inventory, and then enter keys kind of right close instead of like all the way across the keyboard over here. It's just like right here in the arrow key cluster. So I can just hit it there. So it's pretty convenient. And then I've still got the whole keyboard over here that I still have access to when I need those keys over here. So that's kind of the functionality behind the gaming layer for this particular keyboard. And for customizable firmware-based keyboards like that, I've found that I actually quite like it because it gives me that control to decide, like, where do I want to put what where, and what are my needs that feel more comfortable so that I can enjoy the experience more. Yeah, that's it. And so yeah, so as far as configurable keyboards, would I recommend it? Yes, very highly. If you're willing to dig in and put the work in to tweak it to your liking, then it can be a really good experience. And that's why I really kind of would recommend it, is because you have that control experience that you can take advantage of. And you can tweak it to your comfort levels, to your needs, and also try out cool new things and mess around with it. Like, I've seen whole layers, so like even in the ErgoDocs configurator, you can see what people have done with it. Let's see, Linux. So some people have their keyboard configured for different things. I think I've seen emoji layers on some of them. Let's go to that one. So some of them are still like early on working on stuff, is like you can tell. But there's a lot of cool things that you can do with it. Like, where is it? So up here, for example, when I double tap the top keys up here at all, except for on certain layers. Oh, that one does escape. I didn't well, I changed that because I don't really double tap this side as often as this side. So this will do Super D, which basically opens up D menu for me, is my D menu shortcut. So all I have to do is do a quick double tap somewhere to open up D menu at any time. And then, of course, I've got the Super Shift key that is right there, so I don't have to like reach over and things like that. I should probably add a Super Control somewhere along the way, but I haven't quite gotten there, so I still have to like reach from here over to here and then like any other key out there. But yeah, it's just it's a really nice, if you want to fine-tune your workflow, your gaming flow and everything, a customizable keyboard is a really good way to do that. And when it's like on the firmware base, that means you can take your keyboard with you wherever you go and you still have your basic configurations, and you don't have to alter that for every game, because most games nowadays have a standard key map, and so all you have to do is change your keyboard key map, and then you're ripping and roaring. You can basically play with your keyboard on any system. So there's just a lot of cool options. So far I've only messed with QMK. I've been looking at ZMK because I want to do a wireless keyboard, but that's still down the road and kind of dependent on a couple other factors in like the next couple of months. So if you have like had a good experience with configurable keyboards, if you think they're crap and just a meme, then comment that kind of a thing. If you've got like funky ideas that you've messed with as well, then you can comment that as well down below. It's kind of like the SC controller configuration, or like even the standard Steam controller configurator. You have a lot of options that you can mess with, and you can fine tune it to the way you want to play or you want to work. So yeah, all the links and stuff are in the description. And if you, I've got links for VPS services down there from Frantech, which has really helped me to keep my PeerTube instance and all the others up and running. So by going and buying that, you actually help keep the VPS up, because otherwise I'm paying out of pocket. And this past year, when I didn't have to really think about it except for like $7, it was really nice. So yeah, go and check that out. They've actually got really good prices. So I will see you guys in the next one.